to time, and there's Karen in the background going 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Small Business Chat. Morning, Karen and Catherine. So lovely, Catherine, to have you here. How are you, ladies? How are you doing this morning?
Really well, thank you.
Fantastic. How are you over there? Viewers, maybe we're catching us on the replay. I wanted to say welcome. The reason we have Catherine here this morning is because today's topic, it's something that I think, just doing some of my own brand work, and especially when trying to work with clients or businesses that are trying to communicate their brand. We've been talking a lot about values, personality, and then actually something became more apparent to me in terms of our personal behaviours and personality traits, and having a brilliant discussion with Catherine, our business coach from Action Coach, who's going to introduce herself shortly. It just spurned on this conversation, and so I think what we'll do first is, Catherine, if you introduce yourself. You're a friend of the show now. This is your second. she's a regular hat. Exactly. So actually then, Catherine, if you want to explain a little bit about yourself and how you help small businesses, and we'll start from there.
Okay. So as Crystal said, I'm a business coach or growth specialist and part of the Action Coach franchise. I own the Bromley territory, not exclusively Bromley. I also cover other areas, but that is what I'm known as. We're based in Chislehurst. Previously, I was a business owner for about 20 years in the wholesale retail market. We work with various size businesses, their owners and teams. We build a business plan for the next 3, 5 or 10 years. This helps provide a clear roadmap of where they want their business to go and how they want to get there. We initially look at all areas of the business, starting with finance, because once the owner has control of their numbers, they've got more control of their business, and quite often that's a weak area for some. Together we set goals for the business, the owner, the team, aligning for sort of congruency, so everyone has some skin in the game, including their team. We look at consistency of operations, systems and processes, looking for productivity improvements, identify where this time is being spent with a view to freeing up the owner, so they can really start to grow themselves and their business, generate more money, more profit, consistent cash flow. And our ultimate goal, hopefully theirs too, is, because obviously it's their decision, not ours, is for them to have a real business that works without them, and that they can one day sell for maybe 6 or 8 times profit rather than 1 to 2, which is the average in this country. And even, if they sell them at all, I mean, I think it's 80%, probably more, of businesses that actually just close down. So our aim is to stop that happening and people to have, an asset that they can sell. And that's what it really is about, building that real value in your business. So that's what we're here for.
Oh, that's amazing. I think having a discussion with a business coach, it makes you question. You must come across many business owners that are stuck, that need to find their way. That's why they're working with you. And I know personally, I don't know about you, Karen, but there's almost like feelings of overwhelm. There's also, I love the way it's like, oh, just do this, just here's your business plan, here's the structure, here's your marketing plan, and off you go. And it's just not true. Like, I just sit there and go, I wish it was that easy. And like you say, it's like looking at the stats as to how long businesses survive for. If this was that easy, everyone would be a success.
Yeah.
But actually, what I tend to find is that, and I see it in clients on in their marketing, is that there's this little inner battle, and I know Karen and I, we've had this discussion about, like, how you like a slow marketing approach, for example. Like, that's something that you adopt, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm quite similar. I'm all about like ethics and legacy, and so there's a slight difference to what I'm being told out there. So if it doesn't fit the framework, then therefore I'm going to have a little bit of a battle. So you're seeing all these. I think what has become more apparent with talking to Catherine is that it's more about behaviours and personality types. And why aren't we celebrating ourselves? Much of what I'm trying to do is get that individual personality or behaviour or those brand values and their mission and communicate that. But I'm just realising through working with you, we don't really connect the dots back as much as we perhaps should. And I don't know if you're listening or you've been there, you would have done these profile types. So I've done Myers-Briggs, I've done wealth dynamics. I was joking, but it's true. Hogwarts. I know what house I'm in. I know what spirit animal I am.
I know my spirit plant is.
Brilliant show with Karen last week, and I went on and found it, and I will share which one I am. But you know, I'm fascinated by people. Like, that's the thing, and our psychology behind it. And I did a disc profile with Catherine, and it was so glaringly obvious who I was that I thought, why aren't I putting that back into my marketing? So I think really, let's talk first about perhaps your views on like the types that we get, like how we know how to work on our teams, and what, you know, how you help clients identify their strengths. Like, what's the process for you, I think, Catherine?
So yeah, we run the thing called the DISC report. Obviously, that really supports us. And the reason that I do that is because we all know the golden rule: treat others how you would like to be treated yourself. Well, what the DISC report is to help us with the platinum rule, which is to treat others how they want to be treated, because they're not we're not all the same. We are all different. And this really helps for me in coaching, because I then understand the person I'm working with. And so far I've had, pretty much like same with you. So as soon as the person sees the report, they more or less see that. Now and again, you'll have a little quibble, and when you chat with them, they think, no, actually, that is me. That is what I am. It will show their strengths and weaknesses, which is really important because it helps us work on the areas that they're weak in. It also explains things. It can explain things like tiredness, because if you, as we discussed, there's a natural side and there's an adapted side. And the natural side is what you always are. That's where you'll revert to in times of stress. That's the character traits, if you like, the behavior traits that you'll express to people when you're in a stressful time. Then we have our adapted style, how we adapt ourselves to run our businesses or work with other people. And sometimes if we're really adapting or really dialing up, if you like, in other areas which is not our natural, it can make us very tired. So it can explain why at the end of the day you're absolutely shattered after doing it might be an area of business. Maybe you do your accounts on a Friday and it's not your natural way to sit there and go through numbers, and you're absolutely shattered on a Friday. It's not necessarily because it's Friday, it's because you've just done loads of analytical work and that's not your bag. You're not natural to that. So it's very much about understanding ourselves as well. But also, as you said, we can do like a team where everybody has it, and it combines, it goes together, so you can see where people might clash or what people will be better in maybe a different role, because they're actually very analytical and they're sitting in a people role and they really don't like people or don't interact well. They're not comfortable in that environment. They don't want to talk all day. They find that really tiring. So we're all different, and that's what it's just trying to identify. And what DISC has done is split it into, there's many ones out there like this. There are quite a lot of these profiles, but it's split it into 4 colours or 4 types. And you have the dominance, which is red, which tends to be a lot of business owners have a fair bit of red in them, or CEOs or MDs. Not all, but it does tend to be there, because they tend to be quick decision makers. They think on their feet. Might not make the right decisions because they move too fast sometimes, but they make a decision, and it's better to make a decision than to do nothing. So they're good at that. Yellows are very fast as well, but more friendly, more people orientated. They like the fun of it. They're the person who's going to organise the Christmas party, probably leave it to someone else for the finer details, but they've started the ball rolling. They've got the ideas going, and they're creative, and they come up with really good ideas. And then you've got greens who are very steady. And I think, as we said before, that greens tend to be more of the population. And they don't like change. They leave it to others to sort that kind of stuff up. They tend to retract into their shell if things get a little bit difficult. And they're quite stubborn though as well, but they're steady and reliable, and usually generally very nice people who care about other people. So they're quite caring. And then you've got the blues, and the blues are probably very quiet. You might talk to someone, ask them a question, and it takes 5 or 10 minutes for them to respond to you. And you think, God, they're rude, or God, what's the matter with them? They're a bit slow. They're a blue because they really like to think about what's just been asked of them and really come up with a proper, a thoughtful answer.
Yeah.
And I've found that, and it's only studying this that I've realised I've got friends like that, and I've always thought, what's the matter with them? Never answer back. But it also, again, helps me if I'm coaching, because that person might take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to think about what we've talked about and come back with how they want things to proceed. And you've just got to let them have that time. You've got to let them have that space. And that would be quite hard, you know, for a yellow, because you quick, everything's got to come out. But you're adapting to the people around you. So it's whether, you know, quite often it helps with leadership as well, because they start to understand how they are, how other people interpret them, and maybe how they've got to change to work with each of their team, and understand them and realise that still value your team, but they're different. You know, you might always think the one that comes back with the quick answer is the best, but you're going to get a far better answer if you give a blue, maybe a day, or you know, we have another meeting tomorrow and see what you think. And that's a really good way of getting that. You're probably going to get a really good result. But blues are very suspicious. They won't always trust what's going on around them. And I do see that in people, and I think it's quite, we can joke about it. Once they see this, they'll go, oh, you've done it, you know, your blues there again. And they'll think, oh yeah, you know, I don't trust this, I don't trust that. So it's quite, you can have a good laugh around it, as well as it being educational and working with someone with it. So I find it fascinating, and I think you did when you went through it.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of things that came up for me there, which is quite interesting. I definitely got some blue traits, because I like to think about things and go away and let it simmer a bit, and then ideas and stuff start to bubble up and solutions. Is it possible though that people can be a bit of both?
They can be all four. They're the hardest to judge. Generally, there tends to be one stronger, but I do know people that are pretty much quite even across all four. So they've got all the, you know, they can adapt quite easily to every situation, I would think. But
wow.
Yeah.
Do we know any cool. I was about to say, is this where you turn around and say, yeah, it's like someone like, I don't know, Barack Obama or Elon Musk or someone like this, so high profile? You're like, well, of course. Like, is there anyone that you could perhaps?
I would say Barack Obama and probably Elon Musk are probably reds, to be honest.
Right.
Because they're quite, you know, they're quite very driven and at the top of their game. They've probably definitely got a fair bit of red in them, I would think.
And do you think as well over time, because you talked about, you know, what your natural ones and what your adaptable ones are, so you could maybe start off as one color or more of that, but then as your business grows and you get more confident or you learn more how things are, you could actually,
your natural work won't change. It shouldn't change really at all. It might slightly raise or that, but they should pretty much stay the same. Doesn't matter. I've done a couple of these on myself at different times, you know, like 6 months apart, and my adaptive may have changed, but my natural generally never does. It might go a little bit high and a little bit low, but I would still be the strongest in one colour, and the ratio will be pretty similar across the others. They might go up a little bit or down a little bit, but they tend to stay. Your strongest one is usually you. So like Crystal said about personality, I know that's, but you know, that's what I said, it's similar, but this is behaviour, but it is you, and it's you can adapt and work on that side for whatever situation. You can pull up that blue if you're doing your accounts, you can do whatever, but you're not going to change it on your, whenever there's an issue or a real problem or something goes wrong, you'll go back to your natural state. Interesting. So we can turn on the charm and everything else.
It's a bit like that circle, isn't it, that a little longer, sort of like what you're good at, what you really enjoy or love doing, and what brings in the money. And if you find that sweet spot, that's kind of you in your flow, you're not doing a job. Absolutely. Really.
Yeah. And it's good for identifying if there's things you hate in your business, you hate doing, and you see it there, and you start to identify, that's when I'm really doing that, and I really, you know, that's when you either offload it or dump it or whatever it is. You realise, because if this is making you miserable, why would you want to continue doing it? I know we've all got to make a living, but it's trying to find, well, what would work with me? And I think Crystal said that a bit around your branding as well. It's what would that work with me? You know, what sits well with me, and what's in not your comfort zone, because we're always pushing you out there, but for your behaviour, you know, what am I going to have the most enjoyment out doing in my job, my role, my business? Definitely.
I definitely find this fascinating, because the other thing is that when you start looking at, I mean, you start looking at where your lower scores come in. So, I mean, again, if you're more service orientated, then maybe the money driver isn't just that, like, you'll just see the contrast. And actually probably why a lot of us that are service driven will have trouble asking for the money, because it's not the reward that we're after. So from a sales perspective, it's like, oh, okay. And it's really, it sounds so simple to say it so easily, but the whole point is that, you know, with all of us doing these tests, which I'm sure we've all encountered it in some way, I sort of recommend perhaps going back to have a look, if you've still got them, to see how that is either relevant now, or whether or not something that where you go, well, of course that's me. And then ask yourselves, are you actually implementing that either in your branding, in your marketing comms, or even your sales approach? Because actually my biggest aha, so again, going through the branding, and I can only use this as an example, but when people ask me, who do I work with, who is my ideal clients, I always say I love working with like rebels and mavericks and square pegs. And, you know, it's because I see that individual side in everybody when I'm trying to do the storytelling, and I really try and dig deep. So of course, what came up highest for me on that DISC profile was the individualistic. Was that, have I said that correctly?
Yours was on your motivators. So,
Okay.
so your on your yellow was your highest, which means you're an influencer. That's what a yellow is an influencer. So
I just, yeah, that word just makes me laugh. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
They're the, you know, the center of attention. They love chatting. They're friendly. You know, that you know, but obviously we've all got negatives and pluses. That's all. I'm not going to upset you.
Which I'm laughing at, because as an introvert, I've really had to learn, like, as in with people I know, absolutely. And this is why I like doing these lives, because I can see the faces who I'm speaking to, so that's absolutely fine. But if you ask me to stand up on a stage, and you know, I just don't want to do it, nor do I relish the thought of going out to clubs, or, you know, I have to know who the group of people, you know. So, but it was really funny, because I feel like that there are elements where, you know, you're going to shine, or what people perceive of you. And I think that's the difference between personality and behaviours. It's starting to become a little bit more apparent to me what the difference is, because my personality may come across as that, but my behaviour, actually what is ingrained into me is quite different. But
I think possibly your personality, it changes with maybe things that have happened through your life, doesn't it? Things that have affected you. Maybe you were an extrovert, and then someone, you know, something happened, and it made you sort of step back and think, oh, that, you know, we run away from pain and fear, don't we? So it could, I think that can affect your personality, but I think your behaviour is sort of, it's ingrained in you, really. And we can change it, we can adapt, but you have got a natural behaviour there. And I think, but you saying that, I'm a yellow red as well, and I hate getting on the stage, and I hate all of that as well, and it's supposed to be so like, oh, you're a yellow, you'll jump straight at the show there, you'll love it. No, I hate it. It's just, you know, there's some things in it that it's obviously other things in your life, but I think as a kid I would have jumped on the stage every single time. I always did the readings in church. Good girl. Because I used to love, I loved all that when I was a kid, but it's something that's probably happened along your life, you know, our path, our journey, where you've suddenly thought, oh God, no, I don't want to be, you know, maybe we're more conscious about what we look like. I don't know what it is, but that might be.
I think sometimes it can be who you work with as well, because so if you're in a company and you've got certain dominant personalities, you know, sometimes you take a step back.
Yeah.
And I think that then becomes the norm. And I know that's definitely happened with me in the past. I'm probably not as outspoken or sort of forthcoming as I used to be. And I think that's things that have happened along the way. So yeah, I think that's really, really interesting, sort of the difference between the personality and the behaviour.
Sorry, I forgot on yours, Crystal, your motivators, because you've got motivators on your report as well, and that was where regulatory was your highest one, and then second was individualistic. So it's like you like to be different, you like to stand. So that was the motivator side of it. But regulatory, yeah, she doesn't like conforming to rules.
Karen's laughing. Karen's going, can you just please work within this structure for the love of God with everyone around you?
He's never going to, Karen.
Actually, no, because what you present to me when you want stuff done is actually very structured. and to
Yeah.
the point and very, very clear. So
But I think that's the
so
creative
that's maybe
side,
just,
isn't it?
yeah, so you think it's sort of up there, but actually I find it quite, but maybe that's my way of knowing how you work as well. And that's
Okay.
something actually I wanted to bring up was, you know, you mentioned about outsourcing stuff, but I think that's where collaborations come in as well.
Yeah.
So
And
working with
partnerships.
people who are opposites to you, so they do one part, and
Mhm.
this is what, you know, me and Christelle have worked very well together. This is where I've worked with another lady, Lynn, very
Yeah.
well, is you've got different strengths and
Yeah.
they complement each other so that you don't have to do everything.
And that's what's really important about this as well, if you're doing it with your team, because you will see if there's a colour missing, and you need all the colours because we're all good at something and we're all important, and there's no colour better than another. It's just we've got different strengths. So you can see that the gap there if there's one of the colours missing, because you know, like you'll find maybe someone, they always go for the same sort of person as them, but a business is not going to function if we're all exactly the same kind of person. So it's good to look for the one, you know, the strengths in the areas you need to cover, whether it be sales, marketing, you know, finance or whatever, and make sure you've got the right sort of people in those roles. So that's what it's really good for.
And Catherine, like you brought back, I'm just, I could talk about this for ages, and I'm sort of like looking at the time going, yikes. Again, need to be kept to time. But I think what I would ask is, you mentioned about tiredness and that rundown feeling. I describe it as wading through mud, that constant slog, when I actually want to be throwing myself down the mudslide instead. So when do you recognize it? When as business owners should we recognize that actually we perhaps should look into what works best for us, like at what point? And also I'd love to know a little bit more about what you offer, because you've got a really good like just doing the disc profile for me was a big eye-opener, perfect in times of branding when I was like looking at it, but also when I'm rethinking about my comms, like just trying to, I've got plans, but how do I make that feel a bit more natural to me and also enjoyable? So when would you reckon, when's that sweet spot of when people really should speak to you or just figure this out really?
Well, I think if you're struggling, you know, usually there's a reason you're struggling with certain, and if it's certain, you'll know if it's something you hate in your business. You know, umpteen people always go, oh, I hate doing, you know, if they're solopreneurs, oh God, never do the finance. And it's really as hated as everyone finds it. Once you get it done, it's such a good feeling. So it's trying to identify that, but, or do you just get someone to do it outsourced for you? You know, again, it's delegation. If it's, you know, if you can pay someone, you know, depending on what you're earning an hour, but if you're good at what you do, you're probably earning quite a good hourly rate. Would it not be just better to outsource that to somebody, you know, or start to think about you need to get people in the business? But I think you generally would know yourself, but you're not realizing, or people don't realize that's why they're tired, or they're not tying all that together. They just know there's something they hate. Oh God, I feel really drained on that day. But it's all because you're it's not natural to you. You don't. This is not what you're good at. You're good at something else, or you're you know, you're stronger in another area, hopefully in your actual profession, what you've chosen. Because if you've chosen a profession that's total opposite to your behaviour, you're going to be pretty much knackered for the rest of your life.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Yeah, that's why people
do. Yeah, because you know, mum and dad have influenced you to go and be a lawyer or as accountant or whatever, and it's just, you know, you've worked really hard to do it all, but really isn't your thing, then yeah, you're going to struggle for a long time. So maybe think about starting a business and get someone else to do the stuff. But yeah, I mean, I did accounts for years, and I'm a red yellow. And when I did it when I was, you know, finance and stuff, my blue was brought right up. That probably was why I was shattered most days, because I had a lot of number work a lot of the time, and yellows and reds, and not really, attention to detail isn't a big thing, but I had to have huge attention to detail. So it is, you know, you realise you're doing the wrong thing really.
And what's the so if somebody wanted to find this out, you offer a session, don't you? Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, as I said to you, we can, at the moment, we do it, it's a £99 session. And what that is you get the full report, which I don't know how many pages, it's quite a lot of pages, though, giving you a really clear description of yourself. And I also do a 30, just because I think sometimes people want a bit further explanation of, and it's quite useful to explain to them about the tiredness and all those kind of things, if that's what's happening, or what if they're really over dialing up that, you know, you're really having to pull this up for this job, you know, how's that affecting you? So we offer a 30 minutes, you know, review really of the report follow afterwards, and usually it's £99, but today for your show it's £50.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
And it's plus VAT, sorry. Unfortunately, we're caught in the VAT trap.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's great. And how long will that £50 reduction, it will be for today? You had to book today?
Well, this week is fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there's a code.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. We'll share that.
All right, lovely.
That's great. Oh, Karen, did you have any, like, has that been quite insightful for you, or is that something you'd ever have considered?
Yeah, it's sort of along the way, and I have done, as we spoke before the show, I have done one of them before. But yeah, I like the sound of the disc profile and the colours.
Yeah,
So
it's just enlightening to see yourself on paper.
yeah.
Also, what I found really interesting was in the disc profile, it tells you the communication styles that you do like and you don't respond to, which, and also for me, how I can perhaps come across. We had a brilliant chat with Tracy Latterman earlier this year about strengths, mainly from in a time of difficulty, like how to use our strengths. But actually, I find that this is all fascinating anyway, for business, for life. But it was really fascinating to drill down what I respond to, what I don't respond to, how I could potentially come across, and where I need to almost check myself, which again is what she had said before in her strengths. But I think from a behavioural point of view, I almost have to be more wary of it when I'm trying to do any marketing or any business or sales or branding activity. So it's super helpful. It just still, it's a lot of pages, as Catherine says, but I think that 30-minute just helped us drill down. Oh, actually, let's watch that. And also for me, what was my, with the monetary side, which is not a driving factor, to then work with a business coach, I need a sales coach. I need somebody to up my game there, because that has to, like, this is just too far apart. It was ridiculous. But then I could have told you that, but then equally looking at it and going, yeah, something's got to be done about that.
Yeah.
That's actually
once you actually see it in front of you, because it might be there, but you think, oh well, it could be, it couldn't be, you know, and you still try and do it. I think actually from what we've been saying, discussing here, I think every business owner should take one of them.
I think so. I genuinely think that is that, you know, because also, one last question, because I have to ask, do you ever look at a disc profile and go, you should not be working for yourself, or it's like, or you should be working for yourself? Is it that apparent?
No, yeah, not that they shouldn't be working for themselves, but I'm quite surprised, and maybe if they've got a good team behind them because of their profile, and which is good if they have. But they're obviously dialing up on the people side to work with their teams or whatever. But you're looking, thinking, God, this is so not a business owner profile.
But they've got a team.
They might have had a business for 19 years or 20 years or whatever. So it's not for me to decide. There's no perfect model for a business owner, but you do think, oh God, you know, but you do start to see the bits that you think, I thought they would probably behave like that in this situation, and they can't see it, and then they, you know, we try to help them see it and see how it reacts to the team and how it affects them. Behaviours, that's what it's about, really, how we affect each other.
Sorry, I was just going to say, surely that's the sign of a good leader, to recognise their own skills and bring in the better person. That actually is
absolutely,
like, on the contrast, that makes them a really good leader, because the ego's out of the way to go, look, I cannot do it and I need you to. So I think there's a lot of I mean, I'm listening a lot about personal branding, get yourself out there, and that almost you have to be this alpha. And it's like, no, if you're not that person that's comfortable with it, do it in your own way. And I'm loving this to clarify on it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine.
It's been really fun.
Really insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been really fun.
Fantastic. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Wednesday off nicely.
Yep, hump day. Woohoo. We'll put Catherine's profiles. I've got her social media profiles, so I'll tag them on both the posts for both mine and Karen, and also her offer. And then if you've got any questions, I'll tag Catherine in so you can ask her. But thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Karen and Catherine, thanks so much, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.